Hello everyone and welcome to SplitSecond. My name is Sequeira and I will be taking you through today's match. To celebrate reaching 4,000 subscribers, we will be randomly giving away a Watchtower 100. To win, all you have to do is pledge as a patron of any tier until the end of July. This box was graciously sponsored by our awesome LGS, Arena Porto. Brief note, because we take the guest photo with our playmat facing one direction and we play it facing another, we did forget this for game 1. To avoid showing you an upside down playmat, the UI order will be different on game 1. This week we have as a guest Bruno Carneiro. He shares a surname with last week's guest, but they're actually unrelated. He's one of the regulars at our LGS and we were happy to have him join us. For our commanders, I brought Solemnity Xur, an unconventional deck I brewed with RA on Discord. Luís is on Amulet Bloom Tatyova, so I guess we'll have to find out what that means. Bruno Carneiro brought Xenagos, God of Revels, which is not a common deck at our table, but as I'm sure you can imagine, it punches hard. Finally, Baal is on Winota aggro / stax, a deck he has previously had success with. The stage is set for some cool decks to have some awesome games. Let's look into these starting hands. I managed to win the die roll again this week and will be going first. I kept the basic plains and Godless Shrine for lands. Mana Vault, Arcane Signet, and Talisman of Progress will ensure I get Xur out on turn 2, which is nothing short of amazing. Blasting Station is a combo piece and Force of Negation is protection. I have a potentially back-breaking start, and if Xur manages to swing, I will be readily set for the game. Like me, Luís kept 2 lands, Basic Island and Breeding Pool. He has Spellseeker and Finale of Devastation as tutors, plus they will work pretty well for shuffling after casting Brainstorm. Sakura Tribe Scout and Elvish Reclaimer synergize heavily with his land strategy, meaning he could be abusing them later on, especially once Tatyova is out. Bruno kept a Snow Forest and 2 mountains as his lands. He has Noxious Revival for recursion and Mirri's Guile to possibly help him find ramp and get his game plan going. The rest of his hand is a bit heavy, Inferno Titan and Perforous Bronze Blooded. If he does find the ramp he needs, he could start pummeling really hard early on. Last but not least, Baal has Mountain, Wooded Foothills, and Ancient Tomb has his own lands. Hikijiki Mirror Breaker is a combo piece and the missing piece can be searched for using Recruiter of the Guard. Land tax could easily help him thinning his deck and maybe getting better draws, whereas Mother of Runes is a good way to protect his combo from interaction. This hand has Acceleration, a tutor, a combo piece, and creature protection. What more can you ask for? It's time to roll the tapes. I start by playing a Plains and predictably vomit all my mana rocks onto the field. I cast a Mana Vault, tap it for Arcane Signet, and tap that for a Talisman of Progress. I am fully set for a turn 2 Xur and the table is disgusted. I pass. Luís plays an untapped Breeding Pool and a Sakura Tribe Scout, representing some shenanigan potential. He passes. Bruno plays a Snow Forest and taps it for a Mirri's Guile to set up his next few draws and hopefully help the table out on interacting with me. He also passes. Baal plays a Wooded Foothills and cracks it for a Plateau. He plays Mox Diamond, pitching a Mountain, and then Mother of Runes followed by Land Tax. That's a lot of cards out. Hopefully Land Tax will help smoothen his draws in the process. On my upkeep, I take 1 from the vault and play an untapped Godless Shrine, losing some more life. I cast Xur the Enchanter and pass, praying that he does get to swing. Otherwise, I'm just pretty much in a flooded mess. Luís begins his turn with a Brainstorm, looking for a way to interact with me. He plays a Forest, taps the Scout for an Island, and plays a Mystic Remora, which he laments not having played on turn 1 when he drew it. He considered neither the Gruul nor the Boros decks would have cast all of those non-creature spells. Lastly, he plays an Elvish Reclaimer and passes the turn. Bruno plays a Mountain and taps it for a Sensei's Top. He knows this is redundant, but right now he wants Luís to draw a card from Remora and hopefully find a way to stop me from whatever shenanigans I have coming. He then passes. Baal fetches for 2 plains and a mountain from land tax. He plays a mountain and casts Recruiter of the Guard, fetching for a Combat Celebrant. He wasn't sure what to get here, so he thought about going straight to the combo lines while forgetting about Aven Mind Sensor in the process. It's my turn and I'm excited to straight up attack with Xur after the Mana Vault pinged me. Because I don't have all I need in my hand to combo out, I go ahead and grab Necropotence over Solemnity. This way the table will still be left guessing at what my game plan is. I activate the Necropotence 5 times because all I need right now is mana and more protection. I go to clean up, discarding to hand size and letting go of Decree of Silence among the chaff. I pass to Luís. He starts his turn by paying for the Remora. I'm not too happy about this. On his main phase, Luís floats a green off of Breeding Pool and casts Gush, returning both islands to his hand and drawing 2 cards. He replays one of the islands and puts Breeding Pool into play with Tribe Scout. He follows it up with an Oko Thief of Crowns, threatening to set back my Zur significantly. I am forced to respond with Force, of Negation that is, exiling a Pact of Negation for it. Luís draws a card from the fish but does not find an answer. Oko does not get through. He then plays a Sylvan Safekeeper and attacks me for 1 damage with the Reclaimer, sending a clear message before passing. Bruno checks the top 3 with Miri's Guile and finds something that could help him out a bit. He plays a basic mountain and follows that up with a Priest of Titania, looking toward Luís's Elven supply for mana. He passes to Baal. Baal gets 3 planes with land tax, thinning as many lands out as possible. He plays an Ancient Tomb and casts Winota. He doesn't have any non-humans on the battlefield to trigger her ability, but I mana drain it anyway. Trust me, I have a plan. Luís draws a card from the fish and mana drain resolves. Baal then attacks me with Recruiter of the Guard and then passes to me. My turn comes around and I use the colorless mana from Mana Drain to help me cast the Glenelandra Archmage I've been holding for a few turns now. People recoil in horror as they realize what could be about to happen. If I'm able to fetch Solemnity with Zur, the Archmage cannot get counters from Persist. This means I could just keep activating her and counter every non-creature spell my opponents play as long as I have blue mana open. Luís tries to stop me with a Force of Will, reluctantly exiling a Spellseeker. Little does he know, he was merely delaying the inevitable. The fairy does go to my graveyard however, so I'm not able to win this turn. I move to combat and instead of Solemnity, I grab Necromancy with Zur, reanimating Glenelandra Archmage and reinstating Panic once more. I activate Necropotence 7 times and discard to hand size, hoping to win next turn. Luís lets go of his Remora. Goodbye fish, you did well this match. And casts a Root Maze. I agonize over countering it or letting it resolve since Root Maze can actually mess up my Blasting Station line. In the end, I come up with another plan and let the maze resolve. Luís passes. In his hand step, Bruno activates the top to dig 1 card deeper for answers. Bruno plays a tapped forest and taps out for Xenagos, looking to punch everyone next turn. His deck shouldn't be very reliant on non-creature spells, but unfortunately he's not been able to put any pressure on the board so far. Baal gets 3 more planes on his upkeep with land tax, plays one of them tapped thanks to Root Maze, and casts a Kiki Jiki. We already know he is holding Combat Celebrant, which, combined with his Goblin, can make infinite combat steps. He decides to pass, keeping his tutor options open just in case I'm dealt with. On my turn, I swing with Zur at Baal and tutor for something probably no one has even heard of. Fanatical Devotion. This is my enchantment sacrifice outlet, which is meant to help me win. I then play Academy Rector and sacrifice it to Fanatical Devotion to regenerate the Archmage. At this point, everyone is sure I will go look for Solemnity. With the Rector's trigger on the stack, Bruno casts Noxious Revival by paying 2 life, targeting the Rector. This is a smart play because Rector actually has to exile itself for his tutor ability to resolve. By putting it on top of my library, Bruno can buy the table another turn. Unfortunately for him, I have already drawn many cards with Necropotence, and have a Fierce Guardianship ready to counter this spell. I'm grateful that I didn't use it on the Root Maze. With that, Academy Rector's trigger is able to resolve and I go find Solemnity. Now I can seal the deal by casting an Altar of the Brewed. This card makes it so whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under my control, each opponent mills 1 card. Alongside Fanatical Devotion, I am able to sacrifice Glenelandra indefinitely, which will come back to the battlefield without Persist's -1/-1 counters due to Solemnity. This makes it so that everyone else at the table puts their entire library into their graveyard. Since no one had the foresight to bring an Eldrazi Titan today, I pass the turn. Luís dies in his draw step, then Bruno dies in his draw step, and finally Baal also dies in his draw step. This was a pretty quick game, and only Zur really got to shine. So we shuffle up and play another one. At this point, we noticed that the playmat was upside down, fixed that, and we're back to our regular UI. Baal won the die roll for game 2. He mulliganed once, keeping a windswept heath, mountain, and flagstones of Trocaire as lands. He has Mox Diamond for ramp and Aven Mind Sensor to prevent me from digging through my entire library for my shenanigans. Combat Celerant and Goblin Assault can act as either ways to help him finish us off through combo or just raw damage. I mulliganed once and kept Flooded Strands and Ancient Tomb for lands. Mystic Remora is meant to help me get back into the match, while Enlightened Tutor could be used to find me some ramp or a combo piece. Blood Artist and Chronozoa just require me to have Solemnity and a sack outlet to win. Finally, I have Mana Drain as protection if I find some blue mana. Definitely not as explosive as last time, but this hand has some good stuff. Luís kept Cavern of Souls, Tropical Island, Windswept Heath, and Flooded Strand for lands. He has a Gilded Drake to stop the commander-centric decks, me and Baal, from getting out of hand. Mana Breach is a staxy tech that synergizes with Tatyova, and Worldly Tutor can be used to address whatever Luís's needs are. Bruno mulliganed twice. He has Misty Rainforest and a Snow Forest for lands. Selvala can represent major ramp for him, whereas Sylvan Library is the main path for him to dig into his deck and really push himself forward. Beast Within can interact with whatever problematic permanence gets through, and Marauding Raptor also acts as ramp. He sent an Infernal Titan to the bottom of his library since it's uncastable at this point. Let's get into this game. Baal starts off with a Windswept Heath and a Mox Diamond, discarding a mountain. Wasn't that his game 1 play? Judge! He's ramped up but otherwise passes to me. On my turn, I play a Flooded Strand and fetch for a basic island. I'm 100% sure that Baal has some 3 mana hate that hits me, and I'm not sure whether it's a Blood Moon effect or an Aven Mind Sensor. I followed that up with a Mystic Remora, really hoping that it will push me into a better position before passing. Luís plays a Tropical Island and passes, not really ramping up. Bruno plays a Misty Rainforest and passes the turn. On his hand step, Baal cracks Windswept Heath for basic plains. I'm all but convinced that he has a moon in his hand. Baal plays the Flagstones of Trocaire as the land for turn and then very suspiciously passes. My mood swings towards that, meaning he has a Mind Sensor waiting instead. I pay for the fish during my upkeep since I saw no cards coming out of it so far. I play an Ancient Tomb to cast a Soul Ring, showing everyone that I will do my best to just sit back and draw cards before passing to Luís. He plays his Windswept Heath and passes, reluctant to cast his fetch with the 3 mana open from Baal. Bruno decides to crack his fetch though because he has a Sylvan Library to cast. This prompts Baal to play his Aven Mind Sensor and get each of us going over it. Luís cracks his fetch in response, getting an untapped Breeding Pool, and follows that up with a Worldly Tutor, getting himself an Azusa. I draw from the Remora trigger. At last, some fishing. Mind Sensor resolves, and unfortunately Bruno fails to find a forest in the top 4. This could really hurt him a bit, especially as he goes to his turn and plays a forest, crying inside as he sees his dream of a turn 2 library shatter. Bruno passes to Baal. Baal plays a Homeward Path, has his land for turn, and taps out for Winota. He swings Aven Mind Sensor at me like I pay life to do stuff or anything of the sort, and finds Angrath Marauders off of the Winota trigger, putting it into play, also attacking me. I take 12 damage. Owie! On my turn, I pay for the Remora and cast my Chronozoa just so that I can chump block any incoming attacks and hopefully buy some time. Luís plays a basic island and his Azusa. He has 2 extra land drops. He uses the first to play a Flooded Strand, which he activates immediately. He gets Mind Censored, not managing to find an island. Womp womp. He plays Cavern of Souls, double checking what creature types Tatyova has. Eventually, he chooses Druid and passes to Bruno. Destroyed by the Mind Sensory, Bruno draws, and unfortunately it's not a land, so he passes. It's Baal's turn and he immediately goes to combat and swings Marauders at me, and Winota plus the Mind Sensor at Luís. Our poor faces are in for a wrecking as all the damage is doubled and Baal finds a Sanctum Prelate with the Winota trigger. He chooses 3, playing around my Toxic Deluge. Prelate enters attacking Luís as well. always the combat magnet. I chump Marauders with Chronozoa because why not, and Luís just takes it all. On his second main, Baal plays a Linvala, Keeper of Silence. More fun, disabled. On my turn, I pay for Remora yet again and cast Animate Dead on my Chronozoa, just trying to stall as much as possible. Luís starts his turn with a Brainstorm, letting me draw off of Remora to hopefully get us somewhere. He plays Culling Tarn and Polluted Delta. He also casts Gillidrake, stealing Aven Mind Sensor, just so that his fetches resolve. Unfortunately, Baal has a Homeward Path in play, meaning he can regain control of his creatures once he untaps. This severely hinders the Drake's potential to hold off Winota. However, Luís can still crack his Delta unimpeded, getting a Mystic Sanctuary which puts Brainstorm back on top of his deck. Then, he passes. Bruno slams the mountain into play just as he finds it and finally gets his Sylvan Library out. My Remora triggers once more. Baal goes to combat and swings Marauders at me once again, Deja Vu, and Linvala, Gillidrake, Winota at Luís, and Sanctum Prelate at Bruno. He also finds a Serra Ascendant from Winota, pointing it at Luís as well. This knocks Luís out of the game and rewards Baal with his own Mind Sensor, back to where it belonged. On his second main, he plays Combat Celebrant for some double triggers next turn. Hey, it's Double Master season, ain't it? On my turn, I finally let Remora die, hoping to find a Cyclonic Rift somehow. I crack Culling Tarn and fail to find a land with it. I then tap Sol Ring for an Arcane Signet and then play a Dimir Signet followed by Blood Artist, just in case Bruno finds a Blasphemous Act. I need me some life. Then, I pass. Bruno looks at the top 3 cards of his library and looks at me. We exchange glances of defeat and concede the game, as he did not find a Wrath to stop Winota's onslaught. Thank you for joining us for today's matches. Winota's punching was a stark contrast with my Solemnity Zor, but they were both victorious this week. We'd like to start the credits by thanking our current patrons and especially Izanagi, Stefan, TJ Rapp, Mike Purr, Ajimo, and Iglegal, our stack rakers. If you want to support us, you can do so by liking this video, subscribing, or by becoming a patron yourself. We'd also like to thank our LGS for sponsoring us with a really cool Watchtower 100 to give away to one of our patrons once August starts. Become a pledge to enter. If you want to go through other Commander adventures, click one of the videos on the right. If you want to talk with us about our games or other EDH related matters, join us on Discord. Come with us again next week for a new set of Commanders and more decisive plays. See you all then.